Tally Hall was an early 2000s alternative rock band whose reputation, fanbase, and music defy words. While not known by the general public, their influence is undeniable for any who care to look just below the surface. Most have unknowingly heard their work before in some form, or at least the work of the members involved. Because while they may have never reached the height of becoming household names, their music has traveled far further than themselves, and can be found in the strangest of places. Despite only releasing 2 albums, the songs contained within them have been heard by millions, and were spread through the most unconventional means.
And if you've never heard of Tally Hall, well then I need your listening caps on, because they're one of the most intelligent bands that has ever lived, with their vocal harmonies and their songwriting and their sense of humor and their web show. They were signed by Atlantic, they toured with Guster, they have a lot of people just desperately in love with them.
The band consists of 5 members, 4 of which are both singers and songwriters for the group who are skilled in multiple instruments, and several are even PhD scientists. Everyone within Tally Hall has been in other bands or have extensive solo ventures. Even though the library of songs under the Tally Hall name may seem small, its roots span further than anyone would ever imagine.
Picture in a yearbook, stare me down all year with this morbid infatuation. I can touch her and I hear her voice.
Years ago, in the small town of Bloomfield Township, Michigan, a young man by the name of Robert Howard Cantor was entering Andover High School. In 1998, Rob's life was standard by all accounts. He aimed for a career in the sciences, but dabbled in music as a hobby by both singing and playing guitar. The first known band he was ever a part of was simply called Source, but little outside the name is known about it. Following this, he would form another band known as Listed Black at some point during his time in Andover High School. Its members consisted of himself on guitar, a friend known as Zach Craftsman on bass, and Rob's other younger friend known as Zubin Seji on drums. A kid who was also talented in the field of music and had apparently been pushed by his parents to pursue playing the piano, and traveled to Europe as part of a choir. The 3 would make 4 songs under the EP Songs About Girls, and were active until the end of high school when in 2002, Rob moved to live with a friend named Andrew Lorich in Ann Arbor, where he began attending the University of Michigan, studying cell and molecular biology. During Rob's time living with Andrew, they would host several house parties and get-togethers with other students from the university, some of which were friends of Andrew's. Amidst this, Rob would meet a second Andrew David Horowitz. Similarly to Rob, Andrew had an interest in music, but was focusing on it as his main aspiration. At the age of 5, he had began studying to play the piano, and by 8 had started composing. He pursued both further at Juilliard, on top of involving himself in a variety of other music-related endeavors, like leading a jazz quartet, directing several musical theater projects, and working as a freelance pianist. Prior to coming to Ann Arbor, Andrew had also studied at the Pingree School in Martinsville in his home state of New Jersey. He'd since moved to Michigan and was majoring in music composition and English language and literature. Rob and Andrew formed a friendship over their shared interest, and when Rob's high school friend Zubin moved to the school after graduating the following year, the 3 became an interknit group.
Andrew and I were living together through a mutual friend, and I knew Zubin from high school. We had actually played in a band in high school together, and a friend of mine was playing a show, just like a independently set up show at the Freeze building, which is one of the academic buildings in town. And she asked me if I wanted to open for her. So we just put together a little 3-person acoustic kind of set.
Despite originally being done just as a favor for a friend, all 3 enjoyed it. It was at this point that Rob proposed the idea of them starting another band, which they agreed to. At the time it was called 540, after their house address. The 3 performed around the university's dorm areas from then on. According to those involved, the band officially began in December of 2002 with these early shows.
It reminds us of the circus a little bit, and I think you'll enjoy a little circus. Here we go. Oh my gosh.
Please slap your cell phones in the table for the audience.
Hello?
Put up to the mic.
Joseph? Yeah, we're in the concert now. Yeah, I'm on stage.
Incredibly, this is not planned.
Around this time, another student of the school named Joseph Robert Hawley would come to know of Rob's work. Joe was majoring in screenwriting and would work on freelance video projects for extra money alongside fellow film major Andrew Lorich. On the car ride back from filming a wedding, he played Joe some old CDs from his roommate's former band, Listed Black. Joe stated that at the time, he thought nothing of it. This was until he met Rob in person at a musicology lecture. Joe had attended Rob's house parties before due to this being a shared residence with his friend Andrew Lorich, though they never became close until meeting in class.
I don't think I met you until we were sitting in the class together.
That's it.
When did he introduce us?
You were in his attic and you guys were working on a wedding video.
And you came up and, oh, that's right.
Yeah, no, it was brief.
But the true catalyst of their friendship would be a comedy troupe known as Anonymous, spelled with a capital M. This was a club Joe had started for fun around this time with fellow students of the university, of which included a roommate, Ryan Scott, and a friend, Rick Lax, among others. The members would write and film short skits playing off their shared interest in film. In this group was also a man named Bora Karaja, a fellow musician who founded a band called Kojum Dip the following year, who played until 2006. Rob would join Anonymous, becoming directly associated with Joe on a consistent basis, most likely in part because his housemate Andrew Lorich was involved as well.
We made internet videos for a while when we first started in the band. Joe and I actually met through a video production sort of like comedy sketch troupe that he started in undergraduate school when we were at University of Michigan.
The two became friends and started emailing each other outside of class regularly. At some point during this, Rob began talking about his music ventures and sent Joe recordings of him, Zubin, and Andrew performing in the Freeze building. Joe then sent him back a few examples of his own music work. These were covers made for fun with a high school friend named Andrew Kurtz over the summer before college. They consisted of Lady Madonna by the Beatles and Space Oddity by David Bowie.
This is ground control to Major Tom. You really made the grade.
Among works sent to Rob around this time were also a couple originals, one of which being called Le Frau Gibet, a short demo sung with a French accent, although its title and lyrics consist of fake words designed to sound foreign. He also created a video known as the Gobble Chicken Song.
Everybody gather along, it's time for the Gobble Chicken Song. It's your favorite gobbling song, and here it goes.
First song I wrote was probably Gobble Chicken. Rule of Everything was the first complete song I wrote.
But Rob, Zubin, and Andrew were all experienced songwriters by this point, and could play a variety of instruments.
We all play a lot of instruments. I'm a songwriter. We have 4 songwriters. That's basically it, and then everything is sort of up in the air.
So are you telling me that, like, on stage you could just, like, pass off your instruments to each other and you could just still do the same song?
Sometimes.
So, like, you'd be in the middle of a track and be like, here, hold this guitar.
We have
Let
a
me take
cover
these
of a
keyboards.
song called Just a Friend, and we always switch it up there. You know, Bismarck key.
Play keys, I'll play drums. Can I play accordion? You gotta play bass.
Unlike the others, Joe had little experience in the field of music during adulthood outside of these short demos, although had played guitar as a child among other instruments like the piano and ukulele.
And were you in, like, band as a class in, like, high school and middle school and stuff? A little bit. I stopped when I was in 7th grade. I did it from 4th to 7th grade. That's an odd time to stop, but...
Well, why not, you know?
Played a variety of instruments and then picked up the guitar when I was a junior in high school.
Rob then invited him to practice with the group, which according to Joe was a surprise, since he had never thought about joining a band before. Rob eventually appointed Joe to the band's lead guitarist, and at the same time, Rob brought in a 5th member to cover drums, since Zubin's strong suit was bass guitar, despite him having been the drummer in Listed Black. The new member was a man named Steve Horatio Gallagher, an engineering student from their same building, making him a convenient choice. With these 5 gathered, the band began anew, and got its first paid performance as a group at one of the college's frat houses.
None of us were really taking it seriously. It was just kind of for fun, college type thing, playing frat shows and so forth.
Paid shows started to become more and more common as time passed, and with this they renamed the band several times, trying to form an identity. At first they opted to call the band Gallagher, after Steve's last name, or Party Booby Trap, but then during one of Rob and Joe's email conversations, Joe suggested the name Tally Hall, which Rob liked. This was in reference to America's first ever food court, established in Farmington Hills, Michigan and sharing the same name. It opened as early as 1925, housing many businesses. All except for one have since closed down. This one in particular was special to many of the members. A place known as Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. This is a building showcasing hundreds of vintage mechanical coin-operated attractions.
Our name is Tally Hall, and it used to be a food court nearby where we grew up. And it closed down, but it was full of these oddities and antique machines that have now kind of funneled into this place called Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. So it's kind of it's like a odd Chuck E. Cheese, a dark Chuck E. Cheese's of the future.
It was well known for being unusual, quirky, and random, possessing an odd charm that endeared the place to many. And it was this tone that the band wished to emulate in their own work.
I think that when we looked at our sort of catalog, we realized that our songs could give the same effect to a listener.
When suggesting the name to the other members, all were on board except Andrew, who was the only one not to grow up in the Michigan area and didn't have the same attachment as the others.
And as I understand it, Andrew, you came from New Jersey. How did coming from somewhere where Tally Hall wasn't affect your perception of that name?
Fought vehemently against it.
He did it first, actually.
It's a little close to it.
I wanted to name the band Party Booby Trap.
No, you wanted to name it Not a Fan.
Oh, Not a Fan.
You were so for Not a Fan.
Not a Fan is
at least 2 weeks.
Not a Fan.
Yeah, Not a Fan of Not a Fan.
But eventually I came around to the idea and it stuck with us.
We were able to introduce Marvin's to Andrew, and I think that sort of helped.
Still, this was the chosen name that stuck. Over the next year, the band would begin to develop their music in unique style. The group adopted wearing white button-up shirts with colored ties. Each member would wear a specific color, and many would come to associate them with it.
Hello, we're Tally Hall. This is Ross, he has a gray tie. Zubin, blue. Rob, yellow. Joe, and I'm Andrew.
There would also be colors used later on for special circumstances, like when fellow musicians and friends of the band would fill in for members, such as Casey Shea with a black tie, and Bora Karaja who wore an orange tie. Rob also once stated that purple ties are for fans to wear.
Last question, who would be purple tied? That's an interesting question.
Fans. We already know that answer.
If you wear if you would like to wear a tie to the concert, we ask that you wear purple.
You might as well wear a purple tie, it's the only remaining secondary color.
It's been said that all of this was in reference to the colored headbands worn by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, although the color each member received was arbitrary.
See, we didn't think they would stick with us, so it was totally random. We're like, I'll take whatever tie, and then several years later, we still have whatever tie.
In spring of 2003, Joe's comedy troupe, Anonymous, would release a full-length movie known as Sargasm, and screen it in the Michigan Theater. Aside from many now-lost commercials that Joe appeared in over the years, this would be his only film work screened through traditional means. Unfortunately, the film would go on to be lost later on as well, before eventually resurfacing on September 23, 2018, when another student at the university reposted it to their YouTube channel. The movie was a compilation of previously made skits put together in SNL fashion. There were several running jokes, including segments where a killer played by Joe would call people on the phone and murder them by saying, "Die," over and over again, resulting in comedic death scenes, as well as black and white segments with a man in a gorilla costume performing strangely normal tasks.
So what do you think of the movie?
It was awful. I didn't really like it at all. I've seen movies starring the Olsen twins that were better.
Contained within the movie was also a music video for a song called Break It Down, written by Joe Hawley. This wasn't made for Tally Hall, but would prove to be some of the first of Joe's publicly released work in music.
We need cash. What happened to our stash? I bought an electric guitar.
At this point, they began to start taking paid shows at small venues, specifically at Ann Arbor's Rock Mecca and the Blind Pig. A few recordings have survived from this point, and a revamped version of Break It Down was played during some, but this was permanently shelved later on. Even with Tally Hall and Anonymous being hobbies while members pursued their degrees, several were involved in a second band known as Toy Orchestra. Zubin, Steve, Andrew, and Rob were all members, making Rob the only one to be a part of all three groups. Other recognizable faces included Andrew Lorich and Ryan Scott. This group would be active for 2 years from 2003 to 2005, performing covers and even live shows, and during its lifespan would affect Tally Hall in a multitude of ways. One of the members, named Yuri Kashima, would even voice the intro used in Tally Hall's first YouTube video still public today.
Tally Hall!
Arguably, its greatest effect was the creation of the song The Whole World and You, which was written for Toy Orchestra by Andrew during his time as a member, as well as a song known as Misfortune that would be used as well. Andrew in particular appeared to have been the most involved, and would go on to post recordings of the group performing at the Blind Pig on April 19, 2005. This marked the beginning of when the earliest known recordings were conducted by the group or audience members. Most taken from Tally Hall shows are exclusively audio. As time passed, Tally Hall would become regulars at some locations, such as the Blind Pig, and their appearances would become so anticipated that they even filled up the restaurant entirely several times.
In Ann Arbor, we had played many shows, and all of a sudden it was catching on in popularity, and a friend of ours told us, well, you know, this could be a prospective job. If you guys wanted it to be, you guys should put something together, and it kind of just kept building.
It was at these shows that the group would gain a new dedicated fan, a man known as Matthew Altruda, who would become the host of the Ann Arbor radio show known as Treetown Sound in 2010. This was due to being very invested in the local music scene. With time, he would become a cornerstone specifically in the Tally Hall fandom, and started the movement Rally Hall to organize those interested in their music.
Yeah, have you heard about the whole Rally Hall thing that people have been talking about?
The Tuna Altruda in Ann Arbor seems like he's a proponent of this. Yes, this momentum. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What is this? What is this? I'm sorry, I'm oblivious to that. What is this momentum of which you speak, Jeremy?
It's like a bunch of fans want to have them reunite.
He was known for having a great amount of direct involvement with fans, and also called dibs on having the pink-colored tie. However, most of his public activity would not start until becoming the host of Treetown Sound. The group would be introduced to Matthew much later on by Rob Lester, a fellow musician. From that point on, Matthew often invited members of Tally Hall on the air for interviews.
And if you're just tuning in now, my name is Matthew Altruda. I'm the host of Treetown Sound. This is my radio show where I feature Michigan artists, past, present, and future. And for this birthday weekend, it's really special because I have one of my dear friends and musical geniuses and scientific geniuses, all around genius. Ross Fetterman of Tally Hall is live in studio. Ross, welcome.
Thank you. It's always good to be back.
Seriously, this is like your, I don't even know. You've been on this radio show a lot of times.
A lot of times.
And you actually hosted it for me when I went to Rhode Island on a trip. You came in studio and you did my radio show.
I did, and it was so much more difficult than I thought it was going to be.
With success during their local shows, Tally Hall decided to start taking steps towards creating professional renditions of their work that could be shown to record labels. In April, they would release their first ever EP called Party Booby Trap, containing demos of several songs, including Good Day, Greener, Stationary Love, and Ruler of Everything. Good Day was written by Andrew and performed by Rob and Joe. Stationary Love and Greener were both written by Rob, but the origins of the former were unknown, and for one reason or another, it was never re-released. Ruler of Everything was a song written by Joe and performed by him and Zubin. This one in particular would begin to set the tone the group would take in a lot of their music.
You understand mechanical hands are the ruler of everything. Ruler of everything. I'm the ruler of everything in the end. Number your thumb, impossible song of the monkey fist torn on a vine. Organism assembly line. Everything's gonna be fine.
Its lyrics were cryptic and consisted of vocabulary much more complex than was common in a lot of music. These traits were brought forth most in content Joe would write, and became recognizable as his style, paired with the fact that he would also take very creative and unconventional methods of recording in order to enhance the mood, such as pitch shifting and his use of a megaphone for certain vocals.
Juno was mad, he knew he'd been had, so he shot at the sun with a gun. Shot at the sun with a gun.
Joe would continue writing and pursuing his unique approach, sometimes for work that didn't even get released under the name Tally Hall. Around this time, he had a girlfriend known only as Haffy by outsiders. Amidst their relationship, she needed to move to Brooklyn to pursue a law degree. When Joe found out, he wrote her a song while she was away on a spring break trip called Our Lullaby, spelled with an E.
Lullaby only made for two. I've waited since the start of time to sing it now for you. And I love you, I really do. It's all been heard before, but now I mean it more.
Joe and Happy's relationship would span years. He would continue to write music on his own in addition to his work for Tally Hall, much of which remained shelved for quite some time, including Our Lullaby. Things continued on this way with other members as well for approximately a year as more music began to come out. They created a second EP known as Welcome to Tally Hall, which included a song sharing the same name, as well as To Wove, Just Apathy, Banana Man, and I Know It's Just the Same, the latter of which was also never re-released. Being a year older than the others, Joe was close to graduating at this point, and with the financial help from receiving the Alice Weber Glover Scholarship, he produced a short film which served as his senior final, called The Other Way. This featured Rob, as well as other anonymous members such as Andrew Lorich and Bora Karaja. Joe's film followed a character named Hank, played by Joe himself, as he discovers he has a child and struggles to cope with becoming a father. Around 1/3 into the film's running, time itself begins moving backwards, and from this point every shot and line of the movie is played in reverse. This then leads Hank to attempt to make sure his son is unborn by bringing him and his ex-girlfriend together in the hospital as time rewinds to the point of the birth. Reversing footage would in fact become a staple of Joe's music, since later songs such as The Mind Electric and an entire future album would contain reverse portions of his own or others' work. This was already a technique used in his song Ruler of Everything, which was also featured in his film on the radio during a driving scene where Joe sings along.
Oh no, no, oh yeah. Do you hear the flippity, jibbity, jibber, jabber with it? Oh my god, I gotta get out of here. I have another word to sell, another story to tell, another timepiece ringing the bell.
Its placement in the film may be because fans have speculated that the song's lyrics, mechanical hands, refer to the hands of a clock, which in turn means the song is making a statement about time itself being the ruler of everything, a theme in his movie as well. After the film's completion, Joe finished his screenplay degree, while each of the other members continued their own. Still, problems started to manifest. Steve, the band's drummer, left the group abruptly in May of 2004 and would ultimately end up becoming a traveling salesman. His former bio on the Tally Hall website remarks, "That's what happens when you quit Tally Hall." Still, his reasons for quitting have been largely unknown, varying from creative differences to the band being a commitment he couldn't handle.
Which of your accomplishments as a band do you think you're most proud of?
Our child.
This interview.
I was gonna say losing Steve Gallagher, but I thought.
Oh, even I found out. That's three. That's
I didn't
like
say it. I'm sorry,
several
Steve. If
in
you
a
hear
row.
this, I love you.
Let us sing, 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 let us sing.
Things seemed bleak, but would take a surprising turn when that same month they were granted a spot as an in-studio guest on the Mitch Albom radio show. This would give them their first bit of exposure outside their hometown. Mr. Albom apparently said, "They look like they're 12, but these guys are very talented. You'll be hearing a lot from them." Although, this was nothing compared to what was about to come. Shortly after, Andrew sent in Good Day as a submission to the BMI John Lennon Scholarship Award. This particular scholarship offered $10,000 and the chance for widespread recognition, having been won by many mainstream celebrity musicians in the past. When the results came in, Good Day was the #1 national winner. This event was credited as being the turning point that pushed Tally Hall headfirst into the music industry.
I won a first song called Good Day. It was performed by my band out of Michigan called Tally Hall. And
What's the name of the band?
Tally Hall.
Tally Hall.
Yes. So we basically read original material. I submitted it and got very lucky.
In the meantime, the group still faced issues being without a drummer, and continued searching for Steve's replacement. For Joe, one particular name came to mind: Ross Stephen Fetterman, a science student from their university.
I went to Ross's high school, and I was campaigning for student government in college, and I happened to go by Ross's dorm. I had never really talked to him in high school, and he was explaining things about bongo drums, and I remembered that, and he was talking about drumming and how he was a great drummer, and how drumming this, drumming that.
I think I was talking about how
on and on about I'm the best drummer ever. Okay, so anyway, he's a good guy and a good drummer, and I remembered that, and I told the band once our first drummer quit that I remembered this guy Ross from high school.
Ross had grown up with heavy involvement in band activities, particularly as a drummer. He attended Lazar High School with Joe, a rival to Robin Zubin's own school. However, the two would merge much later on. Following graduation, Ross had moved to Ann Arbor to pursue a pre-med degree in cell and molecular biology while taking part in several music activities on the side, such as marching band. When asked to try out for Tally Hall, Ross was unsure about his chances of being accepted, since at the time another drummer known as Mike Swain was applying as well, who he viewed as being more skilled. After meeting the others and practicing with them, Ross was accepted, and inherited Steve's gray tie. He figured this was because Mike didn't mesh well with the group, since talent wouldn't have been an issue. Ross, however, got along quite well with the members, despite having to leave abruptly after his first show with the group to arrive on time to a marching band event.
That was the first time I ever performed with the band. And then I had to leave because I was still in marching band, and there was like a big marching band thing that night. So the very first show I played with the band, I had to run immediately after the set, and they all had to tear down my drums for me.
That's so rock star, Ross.
And in that moment, though, I remember like, well, I joined the band with the right people.
Yeah, no, that's the truth.
You know, because like, and that was like a one-time thing, but it was the very first time I played, and for them to all be cool enough to be like, yeah, we get it.
He assumed this arrangement would only last a year, staying exclusively as a college hobby. But from this point on, the group would have all its members, who were ready to take the band to new heights. Several friends of Tally Hall would begin assisting them in a variety of ways to make steps toward success, such as Andrew Kurtz, Joe's high school friend he'd performed covers with, who started assisting them with filming Tally Hall media, and their friend Rick Lax would become their first manager. Although his field was political science for the sake of a future law degree, so this was likely planned as an interim arrangement. According to himself, he also played the cowbell in the group, making him an unofficial bandmate. Rick's further involvement is unknown, but videos survive from his now defunct YouTube channel called Rick Lax 3000, which feature the group members while Rick performs a variety of magic tricks.
Zubin, come in close on these.
What's gonna happen?
Watch.
Whoa!
I did that. I did.
Awesome.
We did it together.
I did that.
We did it.
Okay.
You and I.
Pretty good.
Mostly me.
The exact arrangement around this time is unclear, but whatever the case, swift progress would be made. Tally Hall released their first unofficial album. It was titled Complete Demos, and pooled the songs from the two previous EPs. Joe then recorded each track with a camcorder in his attic to add a unique effect that couldn't be replicated by a recording studio. The album was then packaged and sold as CDs, making it the first time their music was sold in a finished state. But among the songs taken from the previous EPs was a hidden track, fittingly titled Hidden in the Sand. Complete Demos would be distributed with the help of Ryan Scott, a friend and former Anonymous and Toy Orchestra member who had become their merchandise manager. Strangely, the album art featured Ross, but the drummer credited was actually Steve, showing that the album had been completed prior to his departure.
Not to devalue the contributions of our very dear friend Steve.
Steve Gallagher helped write a lot of the first album.
He did.
It was released physically in 2004, being sold at concerts, but wouldn't see a digital release outside of their website for nearly 12 more years. So to most, this album went unnoticed, and their group sought to change that soon. But alongside it, they recorded their first music video for a song known as Banana Man.
Do you see Banana Man hopping over on the white hot sand? Here he come with some for me, freshly taken from banana tree. Banana Man, me want it done. Give me double and a bonus one. Give me more for all me friends. This banana flow will never end. Do you want a banana? Peel it down and go Do you want a banana? This banana for you.
The video itself was a live-action skit of sorts directed by Joe in a similar vein as his previous comedy work with projects like Anonymous. According to him, it was created for Jennifer Hardiker's Video Art 2 class. To share it, they put it up on tallyhall.com, a website of their own that Zubin had made for them several years prior. At the time, video hosting platforms were limited, which made getting widespread traction difficult. So it came as a surprise when the video saw circulation on a site known as Albino Black Sheep, propelling it into popularity. While exact metrics are lost, it's alleged to have gotten millions of views.
This song, I believe, had something to do with helping you to get some popularity. Tell us about the web interest in the band, because it's a fascinating paradigm, I think, right now in the music industry when bands are now beginning to get noticed. I mean, you mentioned the word organically, but through the web, through people discovering the bands, through videos being up on various sites. Tell us about that.
Well, I made a video for Banana Man in a class. I was a film major, and posted up on our website. All of a sudden we saw it on this site called albinoblacksheep.com, which had, hundreds of thousands of views, and it kind of, that website itself grew kind of organically, I think, through the web. And we found a lot of fans through that out of nowhere. and we started getting a lot of emails and selling shirts.
It would even go on to win Best Music Video at the 2004 Flint Film Festival, increasing their recognition even further. This event was cited by Joe as being what kickstarted Tally Hall's internet popularity. In the wake of their online presence expanding around this point, they would catch the eye of a man known as Cos Baldwin, a web developer with heavy ties to the music industry. His interest was immediately piqued, and he would go on to create a LiveJournal page in March of 2005 dedicated to gathering information on the band. Information that became increasingly plentiful as the group updated the news section of their site. They would go on to add a section for forums as well, and knowledge of the LiveJournal page would spread within them. As time passed, Cos would keep track of tour dates, song releases, and every other aspect of Tally Hall that was publicly available. Something which he claims he enjoys, but doesn't know why. Meanwhile, the band recorded a third EP called the Pingree EP, named after Andrew's former university, and a place that by that point the band had become regulars to perform at.
So our musical guest, Tally Hall. Oh, you know you got a good band when they stop before they even get signaled. Rob, Joe, Andrew, Zubin, and Steven making up the band, and let's see, you can see them at the Pingree School Spring Fling in Martinsville, New Jersey. It's right around the corner.
The Pingree EP contained the remaining songs they'd created since complete demos had been finished. These consisted of The Bidding, Taken for a Ride, Be Born, The Whole World and You, All of My Friends, Yearbook, Just a Friend, Cell Phone Call, and a second release of Good Day.
Sometimes it can seem like a nightmarish dream and I'm falling with nothing to hold. Sometimes I get flustered and beaten and blistered, abandoned outside in the cold. But all of my friends help me go. And all of my friends let me know.
Still, not all were originals under the Tally Hall name. Cell Phone Call was a live recording of a phone call interrupting a show, Yearbook had been made for Listed Black years prior, The Whole World and You was developed for Toy Orchestra, and the track Just a Friend was in fact a cover of a Biz Markie song they would often end their live performances with around this time. Its popularity with audiences was so large that it was often asked about, despite being shelved during their later performances.
We like to cover songs that you might not expect a band to cover. We started covering the song Just a Friend by Biz Markie a really long time ago, and it just sort of clicked, and people seem to enjoy it, so we've covered that a lot.
You got what I need, do I? But you say he's just a friend, shooby-doo-wah. You say he's just a friend, barbecue sauce. You got what I need, do I? But you say he's just a friend.
However, at this point, the band members were nearing a crossroads of sorts. Joe, Rob, and Andrew were all reaching graduation that May, and some were thinking about attending graduate school elsewhere. Along came the natural end they had all been expecting, but with the success they'd experienced in just a short time, the future showed real promise. The group knew they'd either need to go their separate ways by staying on their original career paths, or double down and begin to take the band more seriously for anything to develop. Most of the members had stated they'd never imagined themselves pursuing music as a career, even after forming Tally Hall. But with all the success thus far, the choice was obvious. The group stayed together and would begin making efforts to take the band to the next level. Ross and Zubin were hesitant since it meant having to put their current degrees on hold, but with the potential for success and Rob's reassurance, they were persuaded. From that point forth, the group gave themselves 1 year to get partnered with a major record label, and if they were unable to do so, they'd return to their respective life paths. But if they could, sky was the limit.
You know, we played a bunch of shows in Ann Arbor in college, you know, like I said, as kind of goofy friends, just sort of having a good time. And after a while, we accumulated enough songs, and the 3 oldest people in the band were graduating, and we thought, let's figure something out. We either, we have these songs, so might as well make use of them in some way. So we talked to our friend Al, who was a businessman, gave us the record deal.
Can I get a T? And if you hit me with the A-L-L-Y, then you'd see why the hall is here for y'all. Well,
Tally Hall would partner under the local record label, Quack Media, owned by Al McWilliams. This was a small company in their area, but was seen as a stepping stone to greater things. After signing with them, Al knew the band would need to get a proper manager and would begin helping them find one. One day, the members were hanging out in the company's downtown office space where they would occasionally have lunch. By random chance, a man known as Jamie Kitman was stopping in for a meeting to discuss business with Al. He was the owner of a management company called the Hornblow Group, who had overseen They Might Be Giants and OK Go. Al heard the bandmates were nearby and made a mad dash around the building to inform them that this was their chance to get partnered. Upon hearing of Jamie, the members were ecstatic and jumped at the opportunity. Al ran back to him, CD in hand, containing the group's work from that point. Jamie listened to the tracks and was impressed, thus securing Tally Hall as a future client to be managed under the Hornblow Group. Collectively, they ditched their previous plan to quit if not partner with a huge record label within a year, given how lucky of a break it had been to get Jamie as a manager. Through the combined efforts of Quack Media and the Hornblow Group, Tally Hall was then able to release their first official album, titled Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. All previous songs from complete demos, with the exception of the then shelved Just a Friend cover, were featured in it as remastered versions. Recorded in professional studios thanks to the resources they now had available. Additionally, a reprise of Ruler of Everything known as 13 was also created. During live shows, the two were performed together with 13 acting as an introduction. Aside from these new tracks and minor lyrical changes to songs like Greener, Welcome to Tally Hall, and Just Apathy, little else was different. The purpose of the re-release was to reach a wider audience. Following the album's completion, the group would begin their first official tour. At the same time, forum members on the Tally Hall website began discussing amongst themselves the idea of creating their own fan-run site to hold the ever-growing collection of information about the band. Kaz was pushed to go through with this idea, but resisted. He stated that the LiveJournal page was a good enough means of hosting this information, but eventually buckled and created hiddeninthesand.com, a site which also contained a section called Tally Halmanac, the ultimate fan wiki.
hiddeninthesand.com. The ultimate Tally Hall fan headquarters.
Upon finishing it, Kaz stated, quote, "I didn't want this to be a typical fan site. I felt that it was important that the content was fan-driven as much as possible. It's not a knockoff of the original site, like many fan sites are. It's quite literally the fan site. It's a one-stop shop where you can get all the information you need in one place. If the content you want isn't there, the fans put it there. From buddy icons to avatars to photos and videos. The FAQ was an original part of the site. It was intended to answer any questions people had and allow new ones to be added by people using the site. This is a grand central station of Tally Hall information." Unquote. This site would prove to be quite popular, especially as knowledge of the band started to spread further online. Overnight, Tally Hall was put in the spotlight as the next up-and-coming talent in the music industry.
It's kind of hard when you're a startup band to know if what you're doing is valid. You're kind of doing it for fun, then all of a sudden somebody says this has value, and you think, oh, well, there's more where that came from.
With the release of their first album came many new opportunities as 2006 began. Thanks to their managers, they would perform in a variety of locations, expand distribution, and have their music sold in countless stores, and even have some of their songs featured in commercials and other media.
We're writing all the time, and we've been playing a lot of shows, and we've been doing some work for like commercial work, basically.
Now when you take art outside, you can bring it to life. With Crayola Outdoor 3D Chalk and Glasses. It's new, it's washable. Experience it in the Crayola aisle. Crayola, the art of childhood.
But attention carried on in other ways. They made a variety of radio show appearances and would be introduced to the popular radio personality Matthew Mancow Muller, who became an instant fan. So much so that they would appear in his show, Mancow's Morning Madhouse, on April 27, 2006.
Get ready because it's really, I hear everything and it is such unique new music. You wonder where a new sound is. Everything sounds alike. This is it. Tally Hall, if you haven't heard of them, that's fine. Nobody has, but they are really the most exciting thing I've heard in 3 years, at least.
But during this appearance, news of a much bigger announcement was dropped.
All right, we have a band called Tally Hall. Now, I am obsessed with this CD. We got you on the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. I called and said, you've got to have these guys on. And when is it going to be broadcast, the Late Late Show? August 2nd. Okay, and you guys owe me for that.
Evidently, he was impressed enough to pass their name along to Late Late Show host Craig Ferguson to have Good Day performed live on mainstream television on August 2nd, 2006, propelling it into becoming their most recognizable hit.
Welcome back, everybody. Oh, that's it.
Now, listen, the last time I went to Chicago, I go and see my friend Mancow, who has a radio show there, right? He's like this giant radio personality. He knows everybody. And I say, any good bands? He said, listen to these guys. And I was blown away. I've never heard them. This is a great band. They call themselves a wonky rock band. I just think they're fantastic. They've got new CDs coming out September the 12th, I think. Marvellous. Marvin's Marvellous Mechanical Museum. Begins with an M. Please welcome the sensational Tally Hall, everybody.
I'd like to say hello and welcome you. Good day, that is my name.
It would even be added to the game The Sims 2 in the Apartment Life expansion pack. The members recorded a special version specifically for the game, where the lyrics were adapted into the Sims' fictional language.
Alaka si halonka welka vugu dongta bisane. Kumina sipta isoglivu ivik wibi tunikeb.
The song was also featured in the popular Fox drama, The O.C.
I'd like to say hello and welcome you. Good day, that is my name.
Colin, come out, I want to see.
Alright.
Hidden in the Sand would also appear in a later episode of the same series. This was part of the Marvin's album, but much like in complete demos, was kept as a hidden track, unmarked in the music's physical packaging. As months passed, it seemed nothing could hinder the band's spread. In September of that year, they would appear on MTV's You Hear It First, and would be able to directly discuss aspects of their band to the public, including their genre of music, which they made up a new word to define since it couldn't be labeled otherwise after having described it as wonky in the past. The word they coined was called fablu.
We like to just play lots of different types of music, so we used to call ourselves a wonky rock band, but then I think people started to try to characterize exactly what wonkiness was, and we didn't want that to happen. We made up another word, fablu. We're a full blue rock band now.
Later on, however, they would say this was essentially a spur-of-the-moment comment that received a lot more attention than they imagined it would.
You progressed from wonky to fablu. What kind of music is Tally Hall playing now?
Pressure. Careful now, remember, whatever you say now is going to get blown out of proportion.
Yeah,
you did say fablu. Yeah.
It's true. Do you guys kind of regret the whole wonky and fablu thing at this point?
Fablu is just meaningless.
Yeah.
Yeah, fablu was like an on-the-spot. But it was kind of hard because we don't have a genre.
And yet everybody continues to quote it.
No, that's too bad. There's no real reason to regret it. Nothing bad's come of it.
It was around this time that the group started to truly branch out in accordance with the attention they were receiving. They created a variety of music distribution profiles overseen by their managers. Although to host video content, they began uploading to Google Video, and following its closing, they would move this content to YouTube just 1 year into its creation. Here they would post comedy skits, some being originals directed by Joe, and others being leftover comedy segments from Anonymous. They even retrofitted its old intro. Many videos posted were later deleted and re-uploaded, likely due to YouTube's high file compression in its early years. The first upload still viewable on the channel today was posted on September 18, 2006, titled Misfortune, and is a stop-motion music video for a song of the same name that had been performed by Toy Orchestra. As time passed, videos like these would eventually become commonplace on the account.
I think a big aspect of our band is that we have we're kind of a media band rather than just a music band. We have a lot of music videos on our website, and so we can spend a lot of our time while we're not recording in the studio making little videos, little shorts, and we hope to expand the band definition to encompass multimedia on the internet or otherwise video media.
High and low and new and old and stop and go and hot and cold.
But in the background of all of this, the members began development on a series of new songs to create their next album, many of which had been a part of the Pingree EP, including a fleshed-out electric guitar demo of All of My Friends, although the exact history of this song's development remains unknown.
Sometimes I get flustered and beaten and blistered, abandoned outside in the cold. All of my friends help me go.
Some of their newer work would also reach the masses through recordings taken from live shows, since the group would often try to get a peek at fan reception before release by playing previously unheard songs. One being an altered version of All of My Friends, performed during Morning Becomes Eclectic, live at KCRW. Many of the lyrics were changed and more instruments were played, now under the title of I'm Gonna Win.
Sometimes it can seem like a merciless stream and I'm falling with nothing to hold. Sometimes I get flustered and beaten and blistered, abandoned outside in the cold. But I'm gonna win.
Although this would quickly be shelved, and the same occurred with the songs Turn the Lights Off, Misery Fell, Time Machine, and Inside the Mind of Simon. All were performed at various venues throughout 2006. Interestingly, Inside the Mind of Simon was in fact played by Bora's band, Kojum Dip. While select shelved projects would see a re-release in some form, others such as The Start of Our City, the Kazoo song, At Least a Day, and Maybe in the Night were exclusively performed live, and never got a release by the band or any of its members.
What happened to The Start of Our City? That was a demo, and then Maybe in the Night. We just never... Did we ever record Maybe in the Night? No, right? Nope. Okay, yeah, so those just didn't make the cut. We have some deep cuts that we've never done.
Some of these songs only survive through amateur audio recordings from audience members, or not at all. But sometimes fans will take it upon themselves to create their own studio renditions, something which has been praised by the members.
The truck that he drives around is custom painted on the driver's side.
But media would go missing in other ways as well. This same year, Joe's computer hard drive failed, which led to a large sum of his work going missing. This is also why his feature film Sargasm would go on to be lost for so long. For most, media getting scrapped or going missing is inevitable, and it's unlikely any of this had a long-term effect on the band itself. Things continued relatively unchanged for the next few months. The members kept up production in the background interlaced with touring. By 2007, however, massive changes would quickly ensue. The band parted ways with Quack Media and signed a new deal with a larger media company known as Atlantic Records to increase their reach. However, the group would go on to state that many decisions they made would be more difficult under a major record label, and that they'd underestimated to what extent this would be true when joining.
The most surprising aspect from the jumping from indie to a major is the structure and bureaucracy of a corporation in general. You think when you're exposed to a whole different side of the industry that you didn't really connect with beforehand. With an indie, if you want to do something, you do something. With a major label, there's a lot of hurdles to get through in order to get the same result. I think we didn't anticipate how many hurdles there were.
Still, their relationship with Atlantic was stable for the time being, and the company apparently had many more resources at its disposal than the group was used to. This gave them a chance to create a third version of their Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum album with more experienced sound engineers who helped them record their music in a way that translated better to being on the radio. This was also due to the members wanting to make tweaks to their own previous work. This updated version would then be released on April 1st of the following year, and with greater reach than ever before.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Zubin.
And we're from Tally Hall. And on April 1st, we're releasing our album Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. To celebrate, we're putting together some classic April Fool's Day pranks, like this one. Oh!
But, well, thank God you got to re-release it and you could fix this line.
We got a chance to fix the mistake.
It just came out again, April 1st on a big old major label, Atlantic Records. And we were big fans of you guys. We played the crap out of Good Day way back when. So it's exciting to see a band that we supported, like, start to bubble up and get more support. But is there any difference besides, I noticed the artwork on the new one's a little more detailed.
The artwork reflects how different it is.
Yeah.
Yes. We polished it. It's warmer sounding. It's closer to what we originally envisioned.
We buffed it and made it shinier.
You buffed it.
And we're going to re-release it again in 2012.
Awesome.
Perfectly. It'll be
just remaster it every time. It's like a new record.
We're going to get it right.
However, according to members of the band, this updated version of the album was finished relatively quickly after they signed with Atlantic in March of 2007, and the executives at the label chose to wait nearly a year before releasing it publicly. Wanting to fill time, the members brainstormed several productive things they could try doing.
Well, after we made the album, Atlantic said they wanted to release it, many months after they signed us, because there's a promotional machine that has to go get whirring and so forth. So we thought, why not spend this time doing something productive? And we've always made videos. So we pitched this idea of an internet show to them, and they liked it quite a bit, and we decided to just go for it. It was fun. it was basically our whole schedule for about a year. We were writing, and I was editing, and basically it was pretty crazy.
Tally Hall's internet show was a 10-part online comedy skit series starring the members. Upon pitching the idea to Atlantic, they were given a moderate budget to film the series over the summer of 2007. However, production would last nearly a year.
Fortunately, the internet turned out to be the ideal medium for that, and everything just kind of fell into place. It's a way to get to know people in a band. I think a lot of bands right now are popular off of one song or something like that, and it's very transient, and you don't get to actually know the band members as people.
The first episode was titled Good Day, and from the very start, the content of this show largely reflected the quirky and surreal nature presented in their music. It was directed in part by Joe, similarly to Anonymous, and even featured Bora and Rick Lax, two of its former members. Some episodes even contained jokes that directly reference jokes within Sargasm, such as the shared black and white segments of a man in a gorilla costume. Each episode consisted of a compilation of smaller skits and music videos with seemingly no ties to one another. These include a surreal dream sequence at a birthday party, a segment of the members gathering up and attempting to kill Ross, and some even stranger things.
I know it's been tough since Mom left. Dan, I want to give you something. Hold out your hand.
Raisins.
Some of these would be made using content retrofitted from Anonymous and prior YouTube videos, or contrarily, segments from the internet show would be clipped and posted to the channel, where they would gain virality on their own merit.
Hey Zoobs, can you pass the ketchup?
Have you ever tried natural ketchup? Natural ketchup?
Yeah, it tastes like regular ketchup, except there's no high fructose corn syrup in it. It's more natural.
Does it taste better?
I like it more, but I guess it's an acquired taste.
Can you get it at a normal grocery store?
I think so, yeah.
Hey Zoobs, is it a place?
No.
Is it edible?
Yes.
Is it smaller than a bread box?
I guess it depends.
Yes
on
or
the
no?
Yes.
Is it all natural?
Yes.
Is it a condiment?
Yes.
Is it mustard?
No, 18.
Is it organic relish?
No, 19.
Is it natural ketchup?
Yeah!
The only overarching aspects between these episodes were Tally Mail, a parody fan Q&A segment starring former Toy Orchestra and Anonymous member Ryan Scott, and
Hello, my name is Bora. I was born at the age of 0 in Detroit, Michigan, in a hospital that no longer exists. I enjoy writing avant-garde music and comedy shorts. I love ethnic food, especially when I cook it. My right inner ear rings at a high B flat.
as stated, Bora Karaja was a friend of the band from college, an actor in Joe's senior film project in Sargasm, a fellow musician, and by this point, the honorary 6th member of Tally Hall.
Bora is a member of Tally Hall, kinda.
Yeah, but almost.
Almost. So the
Bora is definitely a member of the Tally Hall world.
Okay, that makes sense.
But on top of the other segments, the episodes also featured music videos for many of the songs in Tally Hall's album. As the title suggests, the first episode's music video was for Good Day. By this point, the song had been released as a single and was their most recognizable property, thanks to it having found its way into mainstream media.
I like to say hello and welcome you, good day, that is my name. Come here and sit down, I'm so glad you even really truly came. We can even go and take a walk or something like that, or something like that. But first I need to introduce my what and introduce my when.
Well, right now we're promoting Good Day as our single. and we spent not this past summer but the summer before that making the video for it, and it was a very guerrilla style music video.
This video became highly recognizable and was uniquely produced thanks to Joe's experience in film. The group created it single-handedly the prior summer.
I had a lot of fun recording all the clips for Good Day. Though it was stressful because it was like guerrilla filmmaking. We were literally running around different places. We often didn't quite have the location clearance for some of them. So it was like a get in, try to get the shot and get out, sort of like do first, ask later kind of thing.
Unfortunately, during the making of an outdoor segment in a place known as Rotary Park, Zubin and Joe were beaten and robbed by muggers. It's unknown how exactly this incident affected them in the end, but it carried influence into some of Joe's later work. With the support of their record company, music videos would become more elaborate, ranging in style from animation, stop motion, and mechanical puppets. One such example was with their song, The Whole World and You.
But who's the guy that did that video?
It was a Brooklyn-based puppeteer named Frankie Cordero.
And it's very cool. The concept is cool. The whole thing is cool. And did you ask him to do this, or did he volunteer to do it? Was it part of a project that he's doing for school or anything like that?
We went on YouTube, actually, and just looked at like thousands of videos until we found someone we thought would work well with the song.
Their goal with this, as with much of their work, was to mimic the tone and style akin to the attractions in the real Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. In fact, as a pilot to the series, the members even visited it personally and interviewed the owner, Marvin Yagoda, who reflected fondly on its history.
Welcome to Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum, known from coast to coast like butter and toast. From headlines to bedlines, from schoolrooms to pool rooms. Never anywhere in the contiguous U.S. or any environs of the world has been a place like this. Welcome.
There's a letter from Henry Ford to me. The Deuce. There's a picture of the truck I used to have for parades up there. There's a picture of 1936 Freaks from the Barnum and Bailey Circus. Well, Tally Hall Open is probably one of the first food courts in the United States. It started in the 80s, real early 80s. Tally Hall closed down at the end of the 80s or the early 90s. I had this thought and I called it Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. Why not? What's a museum? Museum just has older things that people like. People, I passed here 50 times. What is this place? Or they call, what is this place? So how am I going to answer what it is? I say it's like something you've never seen before. All types of things for all ages. Marvin's Lunchtime. You notice I put my name all over. You know why? Because nobody else will. Now this is two pieces. This is called The Last of the Dodo Birds, and this is Life's Spaghetti Eating. Now watch. Chopping up the dodo bird. Sailors want more. And this one, eating spaghetti out of the bathtub while the marinara and cheese sauce comes out of the spigots. This head was going to be mounted on top of the clock. All this we have now. Then my head was going to, on a pole, would shoot up, spin around, another pole on the top, the hair would fly up. I think it's better when you don't plan things, because you get too disappointed in things. But this wasn't planned, it just grew. Started one little machine, and then 2 and 5 and 6, and then I got really hurt when Tally Hall closed. I had this big plethora of machines, I didn't know what to do with them. Only thing I'd probably do is like to have a bigger place to display more things, not get rid of them. But on the other hand, big is not better, it's better is what's better, I think. I like that quote, better is better.
The episodes of the Tally Hall Internet Show also created several in-jokes within the fandom, one of which was an entirely new song known as Mucka Blucka. This was made by translating popular hip-hop phrases into chicken sounds to be used in the background on a car radio during a driving scene featuring a chicken character. The costume may even have been the same one used by Joe in the Gobble Chicken song.
On the Internet Show, there were all of our like animal characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was the penguin, and then the horse, Depressed Horse was one of them. And then Jerk Chicken was just like the complete a-hole of a chicken, like literally a jerk, right?
Yeah.
And we decide that like he should be listening to like thug gangsta, like just rap, you know, like had, you know, not, I don't know, just like that's, what do they call it, like Murder Inc. beats, you know, that's sort of like,
yeah,
yeah, just some type of hip hop. basically. But then we decided it had to be like clucked in chicken. So then we decided we had to go into the studio and record that entire song just to make a chicken rap song. I mean, we spent a whole day. That was like a track we recorded just to do the background music in the internet show.
That worked out well.
We thought it was fun.
After having recorded it, the group decided to include Mucka Blucka as a bonus track with the re-release of Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. They did the same with another song known as Dream, which had also been created for the internet show. The songs themselves were not intended to be anything more, and were given a release with the album simply for the novelty of it. Incidentally, Mucka Blucka would go on to gain notoriety of its own to such a degree that it even surprised the members themselves.
It did not expect to ever have it licensed.
It's a huge hit.
Yeah, it was on The Good Wife, and then The Roots. You saw that The Roots played that when Julia Margulies was a guest, right?
Biggest version of the chicken dance of all time.
Starting with it being featured on the first episode of the 4th season of the show, The Good Wife, in a transition segment. The placement of the song was so jarring that this segment itself became a joke for fans of the show. So much so that it won Best Song We Are Forced to Comment On for Legal Reasons of the Soup Awards.
The undisputed winner of the award for Best Song We Are Forced to Comment On for Legal Reasons is the band Tally Hall, for this very, very strange musical segue that really happened between two very dramatic scenes in The Good Wife.
The joke would continue even further when on October 25th, 2012, the lead actress of The Good Wife, Juliana Margulies, appeared on The Late Night Show with Jimmy Fallon. A band known as The Roots performed Mucka Blucka live as a walk-on jam while she entered the stage.
Golden Globe Award-winning star of The Good Wife, which airs Sunday nights at 9 p.m. over on CBS. Please welcome back to the show a terrific actress, one of our favorites. Here's Juliana Margulies, everybody. Juliana Margulies, that's what I'm talking about.
The widespread attention from such a vast array of sources made it an early meme to their name. But it wasn't just the song itself that developed into a Tally Hall in-joke.
Oh, yes, that is Mucka Blucka by Tally Hall, opening up the second segment of Treetown Sound. I did not let Ross know I was playing that song because I would have vetoed it. Because he would have vetoed it. Not that he's not proud of it, but as the lore of Tally Hall goes, Mucka Blucka was a bonus track, and the Roots performed it. And it was also featured on The Good Wife television show.
Yeah, I was going to question you even playing it on the air, and then I remembered that CBS played it twice.
Yeah, it's totally
on,
legit.
2 episodes.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Gangster Chicken Rap is legal on Treetown Sound. But here's the mystery of it, Ross. And I'm just going to get right to it. For years, I always heard that you were the chicken.
Mucka Blucka was in fact the only song released by Tally Hall that featured Ross as the lead vocalist. Something that in and of itself became a running joke in the fandom.
There is an actual thing people want you to do where they want you to cover the entire first album with you singing every song. How do you feel about that?
Oh, wow.
Did you write Mucka Blucka for Ross to be incorporated lyrically into the band?
We had a skit for the internet show involving, the chicken dance as a rap song, and then Ross was clearly the most talented as far as that was concerned.
This even carried over into their live appearances, when the band would decide to give Ross a singing role on a whim to surprise fans.
A singer whose voice you've never heard.
At appearances like this, they announced the upcoming release of the Tally Hall internet show that was in development. The start of its release was originally scheduled for April of 2008 to coincide with the re-release of the Marvins album, but due to delays it was pushed until September. The final episode of the series was titled Good Night, and capped off the series with a 1930s style animated music video for Hidden in the Sand.
We were playing in the sand.
And another video that was done, an animated video for Hidden in the Sand, which is the hidden track on the last album. And who did the animation for that? Because that's a very cool video, too.
A guy named Steve Loader.
And again, is it just somebody, the people that are inspired by your music to bring it out, or do you need to go contact them first? And
He actually came to us.
Well, he's a friend of ours from Disney.
Yeah, not specifically for that project, but mentioned that he, if we ever had a music video that we wanted animated, kind of went from there.
He worked on Ren and Stimpy a little, and he also did
and Goof Troop.
Steve Loader was affiliated with a variety of recognizable properties, such as Kim Possible, Ren and Stimpy, Penguins of Madagascar, Buzz Lightyear Star Command, and even online media like Strong Bad. But his work largely consisted of directing episodes of Disney TV shows. Tally Hall's association to him was most likely why many of the members took part in writing and singing the entire soundtrack for a kids' TV show aired by Playhouse Disney called Happy Monster Band, which Steve directed. 20 tracks in total were written for this series. This work would go mostly unnoticed by fans, but would have a heavy hand in the career path of Rob in particular going forward.